Hey everybody, welcome to the Prepared Mind channel. Welcome back, folks. It's getting very, very loud out there. Both sides, folks, the good side and the leftist that I'm just going to call evil. Both sides are getting very loud. And I want to start with something that means a lot to me. It probably means a lot to you. Most of you may not be aware of this. It just popped up in the news feed just a few minutes ago. And it ties right in with the title of this video. It ties right in with the title of this video. If you're on Patreon, folks, if you're on Patreon, you get all of the news links that I have. Jolene puts them up there. You can go and look at everything we're talking about and the stuff that I don't have time to talk about, plus things I can't talk about because of YouTube, social media, big tech, censorship. You see, I'm only allowed to talk about things that they say are okay. Otherwise, it would be misinformation. Anyways, the point is with this particular story is it says very, very loudly that patriotic Americans love our soldiers, love our Marines, and we, the people, want them cared for, not abandoned, not sacrificed, not left behind, right? So here's what we've got. And this really got to me. I've been trying to keep it together here. In St. Louis, an American hero was returned to his home. And he had a mile-long parade of vehicles to honor him. Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps, Jared Schmitz, who was killed in Kabul. There were thousands of cars, folks, trucks. The Patriot Guard bikers turned out to escort him home. Just a little Lance Corporal, folks. Little Lance Cooley. And looking at the pictures here, there are police and government vehicles. There are American flags everywhere. There are people turning out on the sides of the road, on hills. They're parading on foot in honor of one of our fallen. And I really wish that everyone who has served, who has given their life for us, the people of America, not for the president, not for the government, but for the country. And I like to express the difference between our country, which is us, the people, versus the government, which is located in Washington, D.C. The men and women who enlist, who get commissioned, are there to serve the country, the people. And if I just scroll through these pictures, it's incredible, folks, how many people turned out to honor. I mean, there's got to be 1,000 Harleys here, just in this one picture I'm looking at, unless it's just there's a vanguard of motorcycles fanned out across the entire westbound 70. Just it's incredible. Fire trucks showed up on the overpasses, lifted their mast, their crane, and dropped the American flag in honor as he passed. It's phenomenal to see this sort of outpouring. It was covered by CBS Channel 4, KMOV, because it was that big. American flags everywhere, folks. Traffic stopped, people honoring an American. That is, to me, it says very, very loudly, folks, that Americans are becoming more patriotic. They're waking up to their patriotism. And we may not see that on a regular daily basis, but it's happening, folks. You may not see it in the area you're in because there's just not that many patriots, but other places, they're getting thick. They're getting thick now. I want to juxtapose that. Right? Such a good word. The juxtaposition of the difference between patriots, just normal people, right down the middle, jobs, taxes, they serve their fellow man, versus these pathetic leftists. In California, there was a memorial that was created for the 13 who died in Kabul. There were 13 American flags put up on an overpass. And on the left flank, there was a Marine Corps flag also. And these flags were vandalized. They're vandalized. Antifa, BLM, who else would have done that? There's a big difference, folks, between the political leftists, these run-of-the-mill runt college kids, and other young punks who don't understand what America is. That's what they did. That's how they showed their respect, by vandalizing, tearing, shredding a memorial, so that as people passed by, they would look up and see 13 American flags. And they knew what it stood for. And now they're there tattered, showing us what Antifa and BLM and all of the anti-American scum out there. That includes the White House, Congress, the Supreme Court, all of them who don't understand what it is to be proud of your country, what it means to be a patriot, what it means to be willing to serve others instead of just serving themselves. It is pretty amazing, folks. It's stark. The difference is stark. Because I can ask this question: what's more important, folks? Patriotism or trans wokeism? What's more important? What matters more? Do lives matter more, or someone's feelings? Lives matter, not their feelings. Our country matters, not their beliefs, not their belief and intent and wish and will and desire to tear down America. That's what the left is doing right now, folks. One little Lance Corporal. It is beautiful that he was honored so well. I wish and hope that all the other service men and women that were killed, and maybe even in the future as they come home, are greeted with such honor and respect. And I am so sick of these leftists and what they want to do, folks. I tell you, give you an idea. In Portland, shithole Portland State University, a professor has resigned. Why? Because he says the college is a, quote, social justice factory, end quote. If there was a statue created to honor, folks, to honor Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz, if there was a statue created to honor him, you know what the left would do? You know what the left would think? The left meaning BLM and Antifa, the left meaning college students, the left meaning Democrats. Democrats would look at that statue of Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz, and they would say that he was a tool of imperialism, that he was a toxic masculine male, that he was a white supremacist, an extremist, and a Nazi. That's what they're saying right now, folks, about all who serve this country, who have patriotic blood in their veins. Because they want woke blood, folks. They don't want patriots. They don't want American flags. They want to tear down American flags, and they do. There is a huge difference, folks, and both sides are getting loud. Our side, that is patriotic, is standing up. A mile-long parade of vehicles. Just Harleys and probably Indians and everything else just rolling and roaring. Flanking him, guiding him, honoring him. And these leftists would tear down statues, mock them, vandalize them while they cast a statue of a criminal, a multi-felon criminal who pointed a gun at a woman's belly, a pregnant woman's belly, as he did a home invasion robbery and stole her car. A drug abusing criminal gets a statue. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Yet that's their hero, folks. That's their hero. I'm going to give you a little bit of something else. I don't think, right, that the rest of the world falls under the Antifa, BLM, Democrat line. In Kabul, the Taliban has decided to paint over the George Floyd, the St. George Floyd mural, right? Folks, they know the difference. What is the difference, right? Maybe, you know, it's incredible. I don't like the Taliban. I don't agree with the Taliban. I agree with this move. You think they want a picture of a criminal, a drug user, and who knows what other crimes were committed that he didn't get caught for? They don't want his mural up on their city. They're the Taliban. I'm sure they'll have plenty of things painted right over the top of that. But it's getting loud out there, folks. The difference between normal, law-abiding people and the radical left is growing. Now, what's interesting is we become louder on the left with these wackos and us right down the middle. Folks, I haven't moved. As I described the other day, I don't cuss more or less than I used to. People used to say, you cuss too much, John. Now people say, you don't cuss enough. Well, damn it, how the hell am I supposed to know how much is enough? I'm just me, right? We haven't changed. We follow the rules. We pay our taxes. We go to work. We treat each other with respect. It's the left that doesn't treat people with respect, that attacks them, that destroys and burns cities and police stations and courthouses, and loots and murders and kills and rapes. They've got a lot more in common with the Taliban than we do. They have a lot in common with the Taliban. They don't like free speech. They don't like free people. They don't like they don't like a lot of stuff. But as they get louder and as we get louder, something interesting is happening in America. It started. It doesn't mean that it's going to continue, because there's going to be a big, nasty event. Now, what am I pointing to as evidence in support of my assertion that what the left is doing is hurting them? President Xi Biden's approval is now below 40%. I think last week it just fell below 50%. Now it's below 40%. He's losing Democrats, folks. He's losing Democrat support. His own side can't support him. They're losing, folks. Joe Biden's time as president is getting shorter and shorter. They cannot afford to leave him in office to drag down the whole entire party, because that's right, every 2 years there's an election. And they don't want to lose the House, and they don't want to lose the Senate, as we, America, lose our way. Now, if you saw the people and understood all of us who are patriotic, if we were what America was, we'd be fine. But we've been outnumbered, outvoted, outcheated, outscrewed, right? And that's why they run Washington, D.C. It all didn't happen in 2020, folks. It's been happening for decades. Their system of corruption that they have. But that doesn't change a poll. You know, Joe Biden got 81 million votes, the most ever, the most dynamic speaker, the most charismatic leader. My ass Guy was hiding in his fucking basement. Their ads were shit. His rallies were poorly attended or not attended at all. There was no organizational effort. The one in Arizona, nobody even knew about. Nobody showed up. Yet he got 81 million votes. I think the state of Arizona has something to say about that, and that's coming out. Right now, it's coming out, folks. But his approval is dropping below 40%. The only thing that I think could save the Biden presidency at this point now, you want to hear it? You want to hear it? You bet. I'll tell you what. If he came out and said the cerveza bug is done, it is over. We have enough people who have gotten the Jim Jones juice, the zombie juice, the stick, the jab, the hokey pokey. If he said that there was enough of that out there that there's nothing to worry about and we've got it under control, guess what? He would be hailed as a hero. He could start campaigning now. Look what a great job I did. You think that's going to happen, folks? Nope, he's the sacrificial dumbass. He's not going away, folks. He's not going away. If you are a member of Patreon, awesome. If you're a first-time visitor or just visiting on YouTube, you need to subscribe because it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And we document this on a daily basis. Document on a daily basis. So get subscribed. Woo! That's nice. I want to thank Mr. T again for getting us these awesome promo pieces and transition pieces, etc. Now, both sides are getting loud. The other day, I documented with you the numerous sporting venues where there was eruptions, folks, of passion and disgust, where entire college sporting venues started chanting, "Fuck Joe Biden." The same happened in Canada for Trudeau, and also said, "Lock him up." Now, they're getting loud, aren't they? Well, they went on CNN and said, well, that was terrible because they were exhaling deeply and they were not being safe with the way they were breathing. They would love to shut down sporting events, folks. They would love to shut down sporting events so college kids can't go out there and yell, "Fuck Biden." You don't think they're thinking of that already? You don't think the dean of the school or whatever other commie bastards that run these colleges, they don't want a groundswell of patriotic fervor and anti-communist sentiment out there? Folks, if this pendulum swings back against them, it's going to crush them. And they know it. They know it. But it's not just on college campuses. And it's not just, folks, out in the sticks and flyover country where a bunch of hillbillies and everybody live. Nope. We're all good out here. Don't worry about us. But in New Jersey, I know it's got some woods and some forests and shit. And it's got pine barrens. It's got stuff, but it wasn't those people. It was people who were lining streets as Joe Biden showed up, called him a murderer and a worthless piece of trash. That's what they were screaming, folks. They were telling him directly what they think of him, carrying Trump flags, American flags. This is in New Jersey, folks, a blue state. He was in Manville, New Jersey. One of the protesters shouted, "Murderer, you're killing our kids out there, worthless piece of trash." They are not happy, folks. Americans are not happy, right? I mean, here's another great quote. Are you ready for this? "Fuck you, Joe Biden. Fuck you, motherfucker. Leave our soldiers and Americans behind. Piece of shit, bastard. Fuck you, Biden." Incredible, folks. That is the sentiment. People are getting loud. That's what the President of the United States gets. That's what he gets. But that one little Marine, right, just one little guy, gets more respect than the President of the United States. Motorcades, escorts, flashing lights, people waving flags, and tears. Joe Biden got out of his car, out of his motorcade. And as he walked around, people shouted at him. You know, you leave Americans behind. Right? We should leave you behind. That's what they said. That's what a man shouted. I'm glad people are speaking up, folks. We all need to speak up. Both sides are getting very, very loud. And what that tells me is there is conflict coming. What it tells me is that there's going to be problems very soon. They can't have this kind of anti-Biden, anti-Democrat, anti-government sentiment. They can't have pro-America, pro-freedom, pro-flag sentiment. It's not that we don't like government. It's we don't like corrupt government. It's not that Americans don't like government. It's that Americans don't like abusive government. It's not that Americans don't like their government. It's that Americans don't like anti-American government activity. Now, Rose McGowan is a Hollywood actress, and she has put Hillary Clinton on notice, right? This is what her tweet said. You are a shadow leader in service of evil. You are the enemy of what is good, right, and moral. You represent no flag, no country, no soul. You eat hope. You twist minds. I've been in a hotel room with your husband, and here comes the bomb. That's what Rose McGowan tweeted. She's gone after him and part of this expose Hollywood crowd, like Harvey Weinstein, which also has a lot to do with Jeffrey Epstein, which should have everything to do with what Joe Biden allegedly did to Tara Reade in his office back in 1993. There's one thing I can say to Rose McGowan is you better pay your ADT security bill. You do not want to suffer from a case of Arkancide. But people are getting loud against the left, folks, loud against the scum, against the corruption, against evil. And I don't think it's going to be allowed much longer. I think they're going to have to do something to silence us. They're going to pretend, the leftists are going to pretend, these social fascists, social communists, self-grandizing globalist scum on the political left, way over on the left. They cannot afford to lose. They'll pretend to be patriotic, right? Just like Joe Biden pretended to be patriotic and show up as those 13 flag-draped caskets came home. But he couldn't help but look at his watch. He couldn't help it. He had to look at his watch. He had to see what time it was, see if he could get his ice cream cone, his nap time, how long until he could get that diaper off of his face and the one off of his ass. This is what we got going, folks. People are getting loud. But it's interesting that our side, the side of right, moral, and decent, good, it is finally starting to wake up and speak up in defense of itself. And as they have done in Texas with their heartbeat law, stand up and do what's right for the innocent and for the weak That's what we're supposed to do, is protect, instead of victimize the weak and attack the weak and use the weak and take what is strong and make it weak. That is what Joe Biden and the Secretary of Defense, Austin Lloyd, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff with their high heels and lipstick and the Pentagon are doing, is they're taking something that is strong and making it weak. They're taking the morale of the military and making it weak. And they're taking the will of the American people and they're trying to break it and make it weak as they lock us down and make demands on us and tell us, you might get to be back to normal. Not anymore. We're going to take these things from you, your freedoms, your rights, your liberties. We're going to ruin the American system. That's what they're doing. They've caused shit to hit the fan, folks. Shit to hit the fan. Now, I get the top half of the hour. You guys get the bottom half. We do the Q&A. I've just about finished up my monologue. I want you to get your questions into Jolene, and I will just love to answer them, folks. Love to answer them. But we're not quite there yet, and I've got more for you. Joe Biden shows up when our fallen heroes, our fallen brothers and sisters arrive back in America. He's wearing a mask. Now, on Labor Day, guess what? Joe Biden didn't wear a mask, as he did high fives and hugs and hung out, did not social distance with union members. Don't you find that interesting? It's all about theater. It's about optics, what things look like. Well, they sure like making things look really scary and bad when it serves their purposes. Right? This is how they play their game, folks. These are the things they do to screw us over. Absolutely incredible. No mask, mask. They put on their masks to take a picture, get some good PR, public relations, and then they, get some photo op stuff done and then take it back off. Now I've got a bunch of stuff that we got posted over on Patreon today that cannot be talked about here. We've got a bunch of things. I have to be very careful. They had a tax fraud issue in Arizona, and the next step is to decertify the tax filing. Can't say any more than that. 4 members of the Gitmo 5 who were exchanged, these are 5 terrorists, who were exchanged from Obama for Bo Bergdahl, are now government commanders for the Taliban. So these men have contacts in the U.S. government. They have knowledge of U.S. government operations and standard operating procedures. Will they be able to coordinate with the Taliban sleeper cells in the United States that have been successfully migrated, infiltrated? Undoubtedly, folks. Undoubtedly. This is the Biden administration and Obama administration. Look what they're doing. Absolutely incredible. Here's another one, folks. This is how corrupt the left is. How they have taken the language and they twist the meaning of words or change them outright. That's called sophistry. And then they lie to us right to our faces. That's called gaslighting. Blinken. You guys know who Blinken is? The Secretary of State, Blinken, says, quote, the Taliban are not permitting the charter flights to depart. But it goes on to try and say it's not a hostage situation. Well, if I am prohibited from moving, walking about, traveling, then I am arrested or stopped. Hostage means being held for ransom, whether for price or for some action that is being demanded. Right? So these people, if they're not allowed to leave, to move, to travel freely, then they're certainly in a state of arrest. But what is holding them? What demands are being made, right? A demand over a detained person's freedom is indicative of a hostage situation. In other words, what is the Taliban demanding, right? Blinken is a moron. To make his case requires sophistry and lies, gaslighting, deception, and ignorance. The Taliban took Americans' paperwork from them. Of course, they're not going to have proper paperwork. They're exacerbating a bad situation. The Taliban are exploiting it to make themselves look powerful and to make the U.S. look stupid, and it's working. Well, at least the part about making the Biden administration look stupid. All right, folks, we're going to get to your questions now.
Are you ready?
Okay, we got another new piece there. Thank you again, Mr. T, Mr. Intensity. We got Shrek here. He says, question, with the people left behind in Afghanistan, could we see a, quote, sum of all fears event? We could see anything you can imagine. I can imagine them taking every American off of that plane and executing them. I could see them loading munitions, that is explosives, EIDs. I could see them loading chemicals, biologicals, radioactive material, maybe not a fission or fusion bomb, right? You know, an atomic bomb, but certainly something that could spread, I don't know, yellow cake, some nasty radioactive material. They could be loading these planes with bombs, explosive material that could be on what, a pressure sensitive switch, so that when they get down, you know, drop down to a certain elevation, it explodes. That would be more of an executive decision movie type scenario. There's any number of scenarios, folks, where these people could be used as pawns and tools, either by our country or government, knowing or unknowingly allow bad things to happen. Obviously, the government, not the United States of America, the government, not the people, the government that is located in Washington, D.C., that is making decisions like leave Americans behind, abandon our allies, abandon the people of a country to a bunch of scumbags who are executing people, hunting them down, terrorizing them, enslaving women. That's what they're doing. And it was all caused, it was all allowed by the Biden administration. Hey, you want that big shiny leather seat in the White House there, pal? Well, guess what? You get all the shit that comes with it. You want all the credit, pal? Sorry, you get the blame as well. He's the one that said, yeah, pull everyone out. He's the one that gave $85 billion, folks, not million, not 85,000, not 850,000, not 85 billion dollars, folks. That's 85 billionaires. If you took 85 billionaires and took their money from them and gave it to the Taliban, that's what the federal government, not the people, not the country of America didn't give it up. The government did. And I think there needs to be a stronger and stronger distinction between the country and the government. The government is the organized body that is supposed to carry out and administer the rules laid down in the Constitution. And they're not doing it. They're failing utterly. Who knows what they're going to do? Just know that whatever they're going to do is inevitable. And we are going to pay for it, not only in dollars, but in consequence. We will suffer the consequences. All right, let's move on if we shall. We got Two Owls checks in. Hello, Two Owls. Says, question, what is a good way to mess up their momentum of destruction? That is a great question. This is precisely what is going on. Is they've built up all of these actions, right? Cerveza bug, wave 1, wave 2, George Floyd, destroy America, Antifa, BLM, let all the bad guys loose, don't prosecute them, right? Then we have the election. Then we have the attack on Americans and patriotism and patriots and call them extremists, Nazis and racists while they ruin the economy, and meat prices are going out of control right now as Chinese corporations control so much of our economy and our business that they're affecting us negatively. Oh yeah, and it just gets worse. That's their momentum they've built up to tear down America. So your question is, what's a good way to mess up them? Well, it's to stop accepting blame for what's happened on ourselves. I did not elect these jackasses, and I know you didn't either. To blame the American people for electing them, that doesn't really work either. There's no part of this government in Washington, D.C. that represents me. No part of it at all. It is a disgusting, filthy monster. So how do we disrupt it? Well, we need people to wake up, and they're doing it right now, Two Owls. People are waking up. They're seeing what's going on. This Afghanistan event just blows away Americans. And now, oh yeah, now it's coming out that China is looking at that beautiful, big, fat air base that was abandoned now. And they're going to probably get control of it. They're going to go in there. China is going to become a great ally of the new Afghan regime under the Taliban. So China gets all those landing, runways, airstrips, buildings, location, infrastructure, all put in at your expense, America. China gets it. But I'm sure it was paid for well. I'm sure that Hunter Biden had nothing to do with it, and that the big guy didn't get his 10%, or maybe they did. By exposing this, they did it. They gave it away to China. What did China buy when they put when they try influencing our elections? It's hard to say, right? But when you look at who benefits, key bono, you start finding out who the players are. China couldn't have but Burgdal Air Base unless it was abandoned by the Americans. Who controls the American military? Joe Biden. So China gets an American air base and gets control over the natural resources in Afghanistan. I'm sure they'll pay handsomely to the Taliban. I'm sure they will. I'm sure that the Chinese will pay the Taliban very handsomely. And at great profit to the Chinese. But Chinese benefit from an American pullout. All seems a little fishy and suspicious to me. The momentum, their momentum is going. Can it be stopped? Can it be thwarted? Well, we're doing it. We're waking people up. We're exposing it. We're talking about it to the extent possible. But it's really up to all of us, me and you, sharing video links with others and saying, wake up. And it is an awful lot of information, folks. It is overwhelming what's going on. Whether you're talking about law, medicine, politics, military, economics, social structure, education, geopolitics. All of it, there's just horrifyingly bad news in all of it because of what the left is doing, their momentum. We have to join the argument, the discussion, the fight. We have to join them and become louder. We need to share with others, this is a fact, or this is what I believe, or this is what I think, or if it was the right thing to do, why is everything so fucked up? If Washington, D.C. was doing all the right things, why it is so fucked up? It takes all support away from their perspective, does it not? Because you can't defend that. They cannot defend it. If they were doing such a great job, things would not be fucked up. But things are incredibly fucked up. So that is kind of indicative of their competency, and it's an indictment of their negative anti-American agenda. Let's move on if we shall. We got Logan. He says, John, do you think the list of Americans that the Taliban have is an attempt by the administration to eliminate that problem? That way it can't be proven how many have been left behind. Woo! That would be a strong accusation that can only be supported by somebody who talks to the Taliban. Now, what I can say is I don't think that, but I think it's possible. Because the Biden administration, the Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, and I don't want to let any of these bastards go, Milli Vanilli, General of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Pentagon, they have more than botched this. They should be resigning in shame, all of them, all the way up to Gigi Biden himself, for their failure, for their catastrophic failure. They should all resign in disgrace and move to Antarctica and be forced to live with penguins. Poor penguins, too. They don't want the facts to come out. They don't want us to know how many Americans are over there, because then they can be held accountable for it. They do not. No politician wants to be held accountable. None of them. None of them want to accept their guilt, their blame, their responsibility. See, this is the deal. When you take the big job, you have to be responsible. That's it. Like, I have zero power. I have zero authority in anything going on around the world with the military, the economy, social stuff, nothing. I have zero effect. All I do is talk with you guys. They have power and authority to send people around the world, to affect business, to raise taxes, to ruin people's lives. If you're going to accept that kind of authority, then exercise it. By golly, you have to also accept the responsibility for the negative consequences. Now, certain small medical people with really big noses and glasses who really think they're important, they seem to think that words do have an effect and that they should silence people like me and you. That, one of the biggest health problems in this country is free speech. Did you know that? Yet I have no power to make anyone do anything. Government has all kinds of power to make all kinds of people do all kinds of actions or inactions. Yet they want to silence me and empower the politicians. They want to hide what they're doing and exonerate them of their guilt and their blame and their responsibility so that we cannot hold them accountable. But they want to hold us accountable and silence us. That's why we all need to get louder and disrupt them. The more disruptive we are by speaking facts and truth, the sooner we will get our country back. And even if we get it back, folks, shit has hit the fan. They've ruined all that they can. Right? When the Nazis fled Germany, when they fled Berlin, they blew things up, they set them on fire, they buried everything they could. Right? Because they didn't want to be blamed. They didn't want to be in trouble. They wanted to hide their dirty little facts, their dirty little truths. Oh, yeah. I don't like turtles. Why don't you like the Hanu? He says, how to know the difference between communist military versus patriotic military during SHTF. It is going to be a fucking disaster and a mess. You're going to have old guys like me, old vets wearing old camouflage. Like, I was just talking to John earlier. He's wearing woodland camo, which was the camouflage that was post-Vietnam, post-Tiger Stripe, and before the digital styles came out. There's going to be people wearing that. There's going to be people wearing hunting camouflage. There will be people wearing all sorts of military surplus. How are we going to know the difference between the communists and us? Well, if they're running at you firing a weapon, they're probably communists. If you hear them screaming Marxist crap, they're communists. If they're wearing a face covering, they might be a communist, because I like to breathe, right? If I'm going to be in camouflage, my face will be painted with camouflage grease paint. You know, that's how I'll look. I'm not going to wear a black ski mask. And I'm not a communist. The military is going to be in military garb. The National Guard will be in their uniform. Police will be in their uniforms. But as people get shot, robbed, beat, killed, people are going to have their equipment and be wearing it around. So it is going to become imperative that you know who you are and the people around you. It is also going to be a, shall we say, a moral imperative that we don't just shoot at everybody in case of war breaking out here in America. You don't just shoot first and ask questions later. There's going to be a lot of mistakes made, a lot of accidents happening. That is why there are rules of war where you're not allowed to dress like the enemy. That is, you cannot wear the enemy's uniform. Well, the Taliban is not a country, and the Taliban doesn't have a uniform. Well, they've acquired American equipment and uniforms, and they're wearing them. It's not lawful. It's not legal. It's not allowed, but they're doing it. So expect all manner of misbehavior, trickery from these shitbirds out here. Let's move on. We got Robert Wilson checks in. Hello, Robert. He said, who was president when the fast-track vaccine was started? That would be Donald J. Trump was the president of the United States when the fast-track vaccine was started. I'm not a big fan, folks, of mistakes, and we've all made them. We got John Lord with a question. He said, did you see or smell skunk apes or swamp trolls when in the outback? No, I didn't. I did not see or hear any of those creatures, but I was keeping also a very close eye out for Swamp Thing, that great science fiction B movie from the 80s, Swamp Thing. No, I didn't. I didn't see anything crazy out there. There's alligators, snakes, drum, gars, all kinds of fish, all kinds of wildlife out in the bayou, but no skunk ape for me, thank God. And folks, if you don't know, skunk ape is the southern version of Bigfoot. They also call them booger. They're boogers, which might be an appropriate name, but no smelling them, and that would have really got my attention. All right, we got Dangerous Freedom. Says, John, do you have more of that Irish water, because we could all use some? Well, I often talk about food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, right, with the plan. But thank you, Jolene, also for this flask. She got it for me for Christmas a few years ago. Be sure to have a good supply of alcohol. Vodka is the most useful for using as a disinfectant and an antiseptic, a cleaner, as well as offering both depressant and antidepressant qualities. It's inexpensive, it's flavorless, tasteless, for the layman, especially when mixed into a cocktail. So it's easy to drink. It's good for bartering. It's good for all sorts of things. Opie Waddell checks in, says, John, just heard Trump One is coming to Perry, Georgia Fairgrounds in a few weeks. Can you make it? I'd like to. I need to arrange some transportation. I very much would like to. There's some things happening that I'm not real happy about, but I would like to go and get over there. Because, yeah, he's got President Trump, for all his faults, for all his shortcomings and failings, is pro-American. You know, it's easy to criticize, folks. And it's easy to Monday morning quarterback. And I know that that's essentially what I do here in a lot of ways. As I criticize or I commend people for the things they've done. And the reason it's such a big deal is because shit has hit the fan. Things are awful, absolutely awful. And we want them fixed, right? And so we look to elected representatives. I don't like to call them leaders. We look to elected representatives to fix the problems. And things just seem to get worse. You know, President Trump was in there fighting to fix problems, and in some ways things got worse. Would they have been far worse with Hillary? Oh, I'm certain of that. Does that make it okay that you know, no, it doesn't make it okay. But, you know, Trump discovered just how evil Washington, D.C. is, and how many people were willing to sell out, lie to him, stab him in the back, screw him over, etc. Could I have done any better than President Trump? The answer is a definitive no. I couldn't have. Even if I could make better decisions, I would not have the clout, I wouldn't have this huge persona that's bigger than life like Trump to try and blast through all of these assholes. You know, being realistic, folks, Trump is a huge fucking ego and personality. And even he was just pummeled constantly. I wish he could have succeeded, but it just goes to show that a leader, a single person cannot fix this. A single human being cannot fix this. It's going to take all of us, the American people, to fix it. You see, that's supposed to be the deal with the president and elected representatives, it is the people and our will that matters. And then when we make our will known, we put a person up there, a representative, and say, now do our will. And it used to be that the oath that they would take, they would lay a hand on the Bible, raise their right hand, take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. And within the Constitution are the rules of the game and the defense of our rights and liberties in the Bill of Rights. And they swore to defend that against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That doesn't leave a whole lot of ambiguity in my book. That's pretty fucking specific. And all of these representatives that we elect, that we put up there to say, do our bidding, do our will, obey your oath, and they failed. Right? Trump tried, and he was lied to quite a bit. I wish he had done a better job. I wish he could have done a better job. But certainly it shows us exactly how fucked up Washington, D.C. is. And look what they're doing now. Look at how they betrayed America, Americans, our allies, our friends around the world. They don't trust America anymore, folks. Or rather, they don't trust the United States government. The government, the federal government, the United States government is the problem the world has. We, the American people, are beloved by people around the world, just as we love other people from other countries, not their governments, the people themselves. Two Owls is back, says they stopped Trump's momentum in its tracks. Do you think he stopped? No, I don't. I do not think he stopped. I'm continuing to get information about their efforts to expose the fraud, the treason, the corruption that has happened in this country, specifically talking about everything. I just think that he was thwarted. Now, this is huge, folks, and we attack the mainstream media all the time when we talk about them. mainstream media, big tech, social media tech, like YouTube, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of these companies, and now they're banks. They're banks that want to cancel and did cancel President Trump and General Flynn. And who knows how many other businessmen and powerful people out there have had their bank accounts frozen, had their bank accounts canceled. There is a huge anti-American, pro-communist, pro-fascist surge out there. And they're surging, folks. They're trying to squash everybody, to crush us. That's what they're trying to do. They want to crush America. And in a lot of ways, they're being very successful. They're doing it. They're absolutely doing it. They think they can get away with it. The American people need to stand up and say no. That's what we're talking about here, getting loud. And people are getting loud. We got Mick says this: we in England are not allowed to use anything to protect ourselves, not even a stick. Same as New Zealand and other European countries. Why, if guns are so bad and dangerous for us to not have them, is it okay for them to use as first line of defense to protect themselves from harmful events? We don't stand a chance against a life-threatening enemy. Any ideas? Yeah, I've heard this, Mick, that in England, you're not allowed to even lift a hand. If someone is assaulting you, it is unlawful for you to resist or fight back. You can't use a stick, a knife, nothing. Isn't that incredible? Because it flies in the face of the common law notion that you have a right to life. You have a right to defend your life. Your life matters, right? You have a right to defend yourself, to protect others, and to protect the country. And in fact, many would contend that you have a duty to do these things. If there's a policeman around, the policeman is hired or employed or empowered by the people to serve and protect. And in the absence of a policeman, we can make a citizen's arrest or stop a criminal offense while it's happening. Now, over there, I'm aware that, yeah, same with Australia, New Zealand, etc., and Europe especially, weapons, shotguns, handguns, rifles are much more rare than they are here in the United States of America. But toys are allowed. Toys. Let's see if I can be more specific. Slingshots, bow and arrow, crossbow. There's this really big German fellow, he's an engineer, who makes incredible toys that I guess could be used as weapons. You know, I don't know, can you have swords, pikes, sharp stick? There's a difference also between prohibiting use of such items and prohibiting the ownership of them. Now, I would never, ever, ever tell anyone to break any law or do anything harmful or dangerous, because I'm just not that kind of guy. But you do have a right to defend yourself, no matter what any government says. No matter what any government says, we have a right to defend ourselves. Because if the government wasn't there, we would defend ourselves, right? Our right to exist and our desire to live preempts any government. And the government, it doesn't require the government to be there and then to grant us the permission before we go, oh yeah, I can defend myself. Right? This is the lie that's being told by government, that they can take away your rights. They can't. All you can choose to do is not exercise them. All right, let's move on to S. Thompson's question. He says, are leftists and fascists, since they don't share ideals, fellow Americans? Are they more as yet unstated enemy? Okay. We've been told by the media, by politicians, that there's the far left and there's the far right. And this is communists on the left, and it's fascists on the right. And we're all supposed to meet somewhere in the middle. You know, not too far left and not too far right. Well, folks, that's all a fucking lie. You got communism way here on the left. And right next to that, you got fascism. They're both socialist programs. The only difference is fascism allows private property ownership in corporations, and that's about it. Everything else is totalitarian. Government has all the power. They can kill the people anytime they want. They don't give a shit. They're left and left. Way over here is freedom. You look at it on a scale of freedom to no freedom, not fascism versus communism. Freedom, no freedom. And when you think about no freedom, fascism is way over here. They're just as bad as the communists. The globalists out there right now are fascists. They own corporations. They own a bunch of wealth, bunch of property, bunch of manufacturing plants. They own all kinds of natural resources, and they don't want to give that up. Right? But they do want the government to grant them all sorts of favor and exemptions, give them more power and authority so they can make even more money at the expense of everyone else. And then they turn around and take that money and give it to politicians for being good boys and granting them that power. It's absolutely a horrifying system that's in place. It's called fascism. But as far as the people are concerned, they get socialism. That is to say, the little people get told to do everything the way the government demands. And they'll be taxed and be given the burden of all the work. They'll have no rights unless the government says so. It is a complete disaster what has happened to this world. Hitler was defeated in 1945, but fascism continued. The Soviet Union, communism, fell in the early 90s, but it has continued in spirit also. It is not, the control of the government is not about left, right, red, blue, Republican, Democrat. The struggle is for absolute tyrannical control or freedom. Freedom. Right? Tyranny is a closed fist. When you see those Antifa fucks and communists raise their little hand, that is a totalitarian fist. The open hand is the friendly one. The open hand, right? When you go to shake someone's hand, you show them your palm. There's no knife in it. There's no weapon. Right? This is an aggressive gesture. Hand of friendship, cooperation, and love. If government wants to show me a closed fist, what choice do I have but to return the favor? Get prepared, folks. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. Always be faithful to what you know to be right. Your heart and your head. Godspeed to you. Chance favors the prepared mind is yours. We'll be back. I expect you to be back. Share these videos, and thank you for coming to Patreon, everyone. And thank you for participating in today's show.